And good evening.
Yeah, in the world.
Yeah,
Hi, I'm excited to be here with you.
yeah,
Um,
I'm excited for this. It'll be very very exciting. You guys all watching out there, wherever Facebook, YouTube, any of those places that you might be watching, you're in for a treat because this is our first live and my first live running really. So yeah, super exciting. Thanks for coming on, Valerie.
yes, thank you for doing this, and maybe we can just quickly introduce ourselves of who we serve and who do we help? Who do you
Yeah,
help?
yeah. So I work specifically with people that have gone through narcissistic abuse, and so anyone really, anyone that has experienced, whether or not it's mental, emotional, physical abuse, any of those things, been, whether or not it's someone that is their spouse or partner or jobs, bosses, coworkers, family, parents, any of those things. I work with all of those people, and mostly, unfortunately, with most of those people, they have had most all of those type of people in their lives, unfortunately. But yeah, happy to help with any of them. And you, Valerie?
Yes, so I help single women over 35 to attract their most aligned romantic partner. And I'm not a traditional dating coach, so I'm not. I can give you quick tips on like how you talk on online dating apps, or how to go about in a date.
Mhm.
But ultimately, it's really transformation. And I think the reason we got together is I attract women that have a lack of self confidence. They don't feel empowered.
Mhm.
They also have abusive or unhealthy relationship. Let's have it in a
Mhm.
broader term, because
Yeah,
I do feel like there's more or less we all come across narcissism here and there,
yeah.
but I really help them from any stage in their life. I have women they come between 30s up to actually 70s, and yeah, I help them to really go about dating in a more empowered and confident way, knowing themselves, knowing their goals, their values, and really attract the partner that's most aligned with them in the most healthiest way, which is not always easy because I think there's a lot of healing we need to do, right, in order to attract a healthy relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to say that I think a lot of the people that are dating or wanting to date are perhaps maybe not quite in the space where
Mhm.
they're actually ready to date.
Yeah,
Um, and I recognize also, I've been there, done that, been that guy.
yeah.
So
So, do you want to share your story? Do you want to share a story maybe of one of the clients, or like how you help them or how you helped yourself to get out of that, and how do you want to share
sure, yeah,
how you experienced that?
yeah. So really, I didn't realize, I didn't know what narcissism was or any of those things
Mhm.
until about 6 months before the major relationship that I was in, before it ended, and I thought that I was the problem the whole time,
Mhm.
and I thought that I didn't have any empathy or compassion for anyone else.
Mhm.
And that was, I really said something of the sort to a friend of mine, and he said, "Well, I call BS on that."
Mhm.
And I've known this guy for, I mean, coming up on 3 decades probably,
Mhm.
and so he really knows me, and I was like, wow, huh, maybe I'm not the only problem in
Mhm.
this relationship, and I think I was very blessed and spoiled in a lot of ways because at this point now I've been studying personal development for about 20 years,
Mhm.
and so I had a really big background in all of those things, but it has been so much work for me to work through and figure out what I went through, and what are the parts that I own without, without shaming, blaming, judging, beating myself up, and what are all the other parts that are not mine to own.
Yeah, this is so important. I think when I think of my clients, they come to me and they blame the outside world. We all do it.
Yeah.
Blame the outside, only the outside world of why this is not working for us, or
Yeah.
it's not our fault. But when we think about it, even attracting unhealthy relationships, it's never our fault to get beaten up or like physical. 100%.
Yep.
But if we keep attracting unhealthy relationship, toxic relationship, it is up to us to change that.
Yeah.
Right? We accept it and we stay with it and we have a pattern, and that's where we need to own it. So this is very important what you mentioned. I think a lot of times we kind of tend, at least the experience I have with the women that come to me, it's like, oh, men don't want to commit, or they are toxic, or they're emotionally unavailable. I hear that so much. And yes, they are, but there's also the other side to that. But we just condition ourselves to just see the negative, and
Yeah.
it really does start with us, right?
Yeah. And I think one of the hardest parts with all of that is that most of the time, most of the people that are helping people work through that or talk through that, they don't acknowledge the things that we've gone through and the things that we've experienced, or they don't do it in a way that allows us I guess, the freedom and the space to acknowledge it for ourselves, that we went through, we went through hell, whatever it was, however it was. And it doesn't mean that we didn't have some part in it or any of those things, but acknowledging what we actually went through, whether or not it was an abusive relationship or it just wasn't a good fit, or somebody avoidant or any of those things. But there's a part which is so essential for us to acknowledge what it is that we've gone through before we move on to, okay, all right, what's the part that I don't want to own, I don't want to talk about?
Yeah, and I think that's the most important part of the work, is that, because then you are free and you are healed in a way where then you can attract like that work that feels like, I don't want to deal with it, like I don't want to look inside, I don't want to do all that in the work.
Yeah.
But that's actually it. That is exactly it that will free us and then really attract what we really want in a
Yeah.
relationship, or if it's a friend or work, because I feel like relationships like broad. But I think today we're going to focus a little bit about romantic relationships. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's very interesting. I just had a question that was so good. Oh yeah, I wonder if you feel like, now that maybe you're dating, or you see some of your clients that you did the work with them and they're kind of on the other side, do you think it becomes, I think it becomes easier to recognize early on if it's toxic or not, but is it always clear? I feel like sometimes it might be hard to recognize if it's a healthy relationship or not.
Yeah, I think, well, and there's a bunch of things with this, but I think one of the things is, if there is something inside of us that we haven't worked through, and I'll say, so for myself, there are however many things that I have of avoiding myself, avoiding other different things in my life, and so it was harder for me until I had worked through a lot of those things. It was harder for me to spot that avoidance in someone else, because I had the blinders on, because I didn't want to see that stuff in me. And I think for so many of the other things, for people pleasing, or codependency, that dysfunctional boundaries, that's one of the huge things. Well, we're not going to necessarily see as clearly other people's dysfunctional boundaries if we have not worked through ours, so that we could have healthy boundaries. It's going to be in our blind side, because we don't want to see it in ourselves. And so I think that's one of the hardest things, and it's one of the biggest reasons that it's so essential to do the work of healing, because it's very hard for us to find somebody that's healthy and for them allow us into their lives if they are, if we're not healthy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the healthier people that you see, that you are around, the less likely that they are to have any sort of boundary that will let anybody that's not healthy in. They're like, nope, no, thank you. I do not want, I can see they got some issues. I don't know what their issues are. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. Doesn't mean that I don't like them, but I'm probably going to like them from a distance, and I'm not going to get in a relationship with them.
Yeah. Do you believe that there's maybe also a small portion? You just mentioned avoidance. I definitely was anxious attached. And I think it's so good to know all these attachment styles too. But do you think there's always a portion that you will work with a new partner in a new relationship, more or less? Because I don't think that nobody would ever be completely 100%. Maybe you have different beliefs, but I don't believe that. I don't believe it will ever fully healed. I think it's always layers of healing. And then you enter relationships. That's the next thing. It's like, yes, you can heal and you need to do the work, but then also start dating again. Like, this is what I teach my clients, right? Like, don't wait, don't put it on hold for years, because again, you will never be healed, in my opinion. And I think there's always a portion that will always come up, and you will not be able to practice the new and more healed and healthier version of you until you're in the next relationship. So the question is, do you think that there's always going to be a little bit of that still unhealthy, in you until you get into the relationship and then you work through it together?
Yeah, so much. And I wanted to bring up, so Hill Louise.
Hi.
Yeah. Thank you for joining, coming on. Very much love having you here. Wow, this resonates so much. Yeah.
And anyone that's listening, if you have questions, just pop them in.
Yeah, pop them in the chat for sure. So I think that it's really it's dysregulating too, because we can do the work on ourselves, and then we're like, oh gosh, I'm really good. I'm feeling so good. There's no issues. I'm ready to date. And you go out and I can't even count how many cycles of this that I've gone through, where I'm feeling really good, and then I meet somebody, I go on the dating app, and whatever it is, and all of a sudden all that garbage comes up. And that is, and I think in a lot of ways we heal through relationships.
Yes, I agree.
So we have to have the relationships in order to do the work of healing.
Yeah.
Because we aren't necessarily, we get pretty good when we're by ourselves at not triggering ourselves.
Oh yeah. 100%. Yes. And one thing that I've learned, I don't know who said that, and I heard it from a couple of coaches that are known, but two of the most common triggers you will experience is romantic relationships and building your business as an entrepreneur. Like those two. So relationship is one where all your triggers come up.
Yeah.
So again, don't put dating on hold.
Yeah.
Do the inner work, do everything you need to do, but then put yourself out there and just, you don't have to decide right away. This is where you really get to practice the new knowledge and the new healed version of you. So yeah, don't put dating on hold.
Yeah. And I think one of the hardest things, because so many people you will hear, make sure you go slow. Go slow in the new relationship. And I want to say this isn't true, but it seems like it is very true, that you're going to go fast and you're going to jump right into a relationship. Probably. Just like with us, I can say, don't beat yourself up for all the things that you've done. We're going to do that. Like that's just, right. It's part of the deal. Now, with the beating ourselves up, it's like, okay, so even when you're not being kind to yourself, then step back again and be kind to yourself. And it's a practice over and over again. And I think with getting into a new relationship, make sure you go slow and you take your time and all those things. And you're probably not going to. And so you're going to run right head first into the next person, which may not be the best person for you. Hopefully it's not a toxic person, but we're probably going to do that. And that's okay. And it's just like when you're in a relationship, the most important thing is not it's not the fights, the disagreements, all of those things. It's how we work through them, and the fact that we can work through them and then make amends, apologize, work through things, change our behavior. All of those things are important. And it's the same thing, with dating. Is it's not whether or not we go get into a relationship that maybe wasn't the best relationship for us. It's then moving forward from that, either working through things in that relationship. Hopefully, if you have somebody that's reasonably healthy enough, you can then actually have a conversation about, oh, well, this wasn't working. This isn't going to work out well. We don't match. We don't, whatever the situation is, as you're ending the relationship. And I think it's a tall ask, for a lot, because a lot of people, I don't want to point any fingers here, but there's a few folks out there that are potentially ghosting people instead of just having the conversation that, hey, this really isn't working and I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I hear that also a lot, even in my friend circle. We just talked about it actually today. And yes, she was saying they don't just answer, but then she's also just like, well, nothing has happened, and he didn't talk to me in 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden he pops up again, and I'm just gonna like unmatch, right? But that's ghosting. And I'm like, okay, this is exactly where we need to show up, the version of how we want others to show up in dating. So we need to be that and not expect it from others. So ghosting is, I think, a huge thing when it comes to online dating. And not just online dating, actually. You're right. Like, I mean, people could date for a few weeks and few months, and then all of a sudden you never hear from them again.
Yeah.
So that does happen. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's, and I guess it didn't put her whole comment on. So I was scrolling and this stopped me in my tracks. I just gotten out of a 2.5-year relationship. So significant other had bipolar disorder, bipolar and most definitely narcissistic disorder. It was rough, but I've been free for 2 months now, and I've joined a community, working on myself, for myself, being with my ex. I lost who I was. I lost who I was because I gave more than I should have, loving someone who never had the capacity to love me. The same in return has also opened my eyes. I am who I am now because of that. I worked through it and I'm rising. That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Super awesome. Yeah.
When you read, I couldn't read the whole thing. But yeah, when you read it to me and I was listening, and it's like, it sounds so empowering, right? To have that awareness and to use words like this, like I'm rising and, I'm healing. And it's so beautiful to see that it's ended, and now I'm on a different, better path in my life. So yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a big deal, and it's hard. I know that with all of the relationships and the situations, things that go on in my life, they happen for me as much as I don't, and it's not, I think a lot of people say that, everything happens for a reason. And I do not believe that. I think that is the biggest bunch of BS that anybody ever put out there. I think that.
Tell me more, because now I want to talk about
that. Yeah, I'd love to. I hear that, but I think that it is very true that we can make reason out of everything that happens.
Yes.
But I do not believe that everything happens for a reason. I don't think that there was a really great reason that we needed to get into an abusive relationship and all of the things that happen from that. I mean, all of the unbelievable tragedies that happen through those abusive relationships. I do not believe even for a second that those things happen for a reason. I think
don't you believe that it leads us something that we have to learn? Like there was a reason that we were in a relationship, and I'm not going to talk for every case because I haven't had, and I think you're the woman, or not the woman. You're actually helping anyone. I'm helping women, but you also are helping people that had also physical abuse. So I haven't had that. But when I think of like the general of like toxic relationship, unhealthy relationships in general, I do think that when I look at myself, I was partially in toxic relationships because I didn't have a healthy dynamic at home, as an example. Right? So I didn't know what it is. So of course I'm going to track that. I'm going to have that in my life because that's all I know. That's what I think it's normal. And then I heal and I learn, and I'm like, actually, that's not normal. And actually, I do want a healthy relationship. So I think I do believe that people come into our lives. I don't believe that we deserve, nobody, we deserve the best. We're worthy.
Yep.
The moment we are born, we know that from from coaching, right? We're worthy the moment we're born. But I do feel like to a certain extent, people come to our lives because of where we are and what we know. Louise, she posted again.
Learning.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I don't think I can read the bottom half, so you read
okay.
it.
Learning new skills, pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Anyway, guys, I'm off to sleep over here in the UK. I've followed you, Kyle. Thank you both. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for being here. Much love. Keep going.
I always see when others they join from other countries. So it's cool.
Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, what do you think about that? So do you think that people come into our life for a reason, for us to grow and to become that person? Then for us to get out of
I think that a lot of situations and people and all kinds of things come into our life. For whatever reason, and there's so many synchronicities that happen with things, and but it's I think it's difficult looking at the line back and forth where it's like, well, this happened for a reason. I was in all of this abuse for a reason, and I think that there may be some truth in that, but I don't think it's the truth. So there, I mean, did we end up being in touch with, getting into a relationship with somebody that was toxic because of the things that we hadn't worked through and whatever we'd gone through and all of those things? Yeah, I think there is some truth in that for sure. Is it the truth that we needed to be in a toxic relationship and that happened for a reason? I don't think so. I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
So and it's sticky and it's nuanced and it's complicated and but it's really hard in a lot of ways to not shame and blame ourselves. And in a lot of ways victim shame. Well, I got into it and it happens for a reason, and so then I deserved it, and that is so far from the truth. And I know that that's not what you're saying also.
No.
But
I'm always thinking from a perspective of like there's certain things that we need to experience in order to grow generally, right? So that's the perspective I'm coming from.
And I've had this experience a bit recently, and I'll call myself out on all of this because I had noticed how I'm like, oh my gosh, all of these avoidant people in my life, and women, of course, when I'm kind of trying to get out there and date a little bit, sort of, kind of a little bit, I'm open to it, but I'm like, oh my gosh, there's all these avoidant people, and And then I went, okay, well, I know there's a reflection of myself in this here. So, so where am I avoiding? What am I avoiding in my own life? And,
Mhm.
and the fact that I'm focused on all of these avoidant people. Well, if I'm focused on all of these avoidant people and why are they all so avoidant and all of those things, then of course I'm going to have that show up in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't want to look at it this way, but that is always true. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Bettina says yes. And uh yeah, learning and healing. Love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you for being here live with us too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ask us any questions that come up. Um, yeah, that is a very hot topic. It's so, even yesterday for a moment, I was frustrated because I'm talking to a guy online,
Mhm.
and what I liked is I'm in some ways traditional personally, and I'm also in my coaching practice in my program. I um, I saw a huge demand of women to learn more about feminine energy, like the
Mhm.
healthy feminine energy, the healthy masculine energy. So it's interesting even for me because I was very much in the masculine role in every relationship actually. And I want to be my softer, like I was very career and at work, and I learned that if I want to be more the softer version of me, I need to separate. So
Mm.
yesterday, this guy I loved, he took initiative. He's like, let's get on a call. And I always advise women when they're online dating, before you meet, just have a phone
Mhm.
conversation,
Yeah.
a video call, whatever.
Yeah.
And so he called, but he didn't show if he has kids, he wants kids or not. And so I talked to him, and I was so excited because I'm like, okay, I like this profile. Came to find out he already had kids, he's divorced, and he doesn't want any more kids. And that's a huge, for me, it's important.
Mm.
I want family, right?
Mhm.
So, but I was, for a moment, I was like blaming him. Like, why didn't you put this on your like, I didn't tell him like that, but I advised a little bit. I'm like, you could put this on your profile because then you will only talk to women that have the same goals. So for a little bit, I was like, why, didn't you not show? And then in my head, I'm like, I could have asked him too. So everything I try to like blame others. It's like there's also a part of me that I could do. But these are small examples where before we always go and like jump of like, oh, this guy and this, they're
Mhm.
doing everything wrong. It's like, hold on a second, right? Like what am
Mhm.
I owning? So
Yeah.
I want to be the softer side. Bettina, yes. So I do sometimes host workshops on feminine and masculine energy. So
Mm.
just to put it out there, because I just saw a huge demand for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's another one of those things that that it's very complicated, and most people that are out there dating and complaining about it, many people, well, maybe we'll ease back. We won't say most people, but
Yeah.
many people don't really understand the full dynamic of it. And I think with the masculine and the feminine, one of the major things is, women want, okay, I want a masculine man to come in, and
Mhm.
that way I can be in my feminine.
Mm.
And I think that's probably healthy for most all people that want those, those types of relationships. But the hard part a lot of times, and especially, the more, I don't want to say completely across the board, but the more successful a woman is, career, job, business, all of those things, the more that she taps into her masculine energy.
Yeah.
And the harder it is for her to soften into her feminine side.
Yeah.
And and so the guy comes in, and we'll say that he's really in touch and really in his masculine.
Mhm.
And so then she has to allow him and allow herself to move into that feminine.
Mhm.
And I think one of the big things that happens probably a lot, and I want to hear all of what you have to say about all this, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of things happen. We start dating, we get into a relationship, whatever it is, and something will happen, and she'll get triggered, even in the slightest way, whether or not it's something that he did directly or intentionally or not, whatever happens, and she gets triggered a little bit. Well, her natural response, because of the success, or the life that she's lived, is to step back into the masculine, protect herself, and then go conquer, get things done, take care of business. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think then it's like, well, the dynamic shifts then. And so then she's not in her feminine, and a lot of times, with a lot of guys especially, we retract. I feel that in myself so much. I'm like, oh, crap, and so I retract back. Well, that's often I step back into more feminine energy.
Yeah.
And so it's a whole role reversal. And then it's like, well, gosh, you should be more masculine, and which, okay, I'll own my part of that. But it's not that simple.
Yeah, and I think I have to think back, but I do have what feminine energy and what it's not. And I think there's a lot of misconception of what femininity is, because sometimes it feels like, oh, you are too soft or too sensitive, or you don't have any goals, or you're not, ambitious, or you like you want a man that controls, or that does everything, or you're lazy. Like, there's so many misconceptions, and it's so the opposite. When I think of feminine energy, and I don't know if I love observing couples. If it's me going somewhere, on a date today, or even the ones that are well known, they're dynamic. And even though you don't know what's going on at home, but you feel an energy, right? Of where you feel like that's supportive, where she has her role, he has his role, and it just works. Like, their role is very well defined, but they're a team at the same time. And I always admire that. So I always had friends that, not always, I have a few examples, but I was always looking up to that. I'm like, wow, like, how lucky, or, I will never get there. I was struggling with that for a long time. And then I'm like, the more I learn about being in my feminine energy and what it actually means, the more I realize how I'm more attracting healthy masculine, because it's very important. We talk about healthy masculine and healthy feminine.
Yes.
Because a wounded feminine is somebody that's constantly reacting, like you said, constantly like jumping, complaining, nagging, and we all humans, and we all will do it. But a healthy feminine is somebody that is empowered, is confident, that actually talks her needs. She knows her boundaries. She speaks up to her needs, but in a way that then makes him think about it and maybe change it or not if he wants to, right? But that, to me, is feminine energy. You feel empowered and you feel confident, and you don't have that anxiety, like, oh my God, if I speak up now, he's going to leave me. Or, like all this anxiety that you have. As a healthy feminine, you don't feel that. You really, know yourself so well. And if something was to happen, like you will be okay. Like, so there's so much that I love this topic, because there's a lot of like misconception. And that's what my definition is of feminine. And like you said, I do think generally that it has a healthy balance when you have a healthy masculine and healthy feminine come together. And I think it has changed a lot today. Also, the fact that we women have a lot of opportunities. We don't even really need men anymore to have children, right? We can do it all on our own, basically. But then the question comes up, like, do we want that? Because I feel like us not stepping into a feminine or even masculine, it's both our fault. It's not one or the other, because I see how men are confused, right? So it's really from both sides.
Yeah.
To bring that back. And I feel like that's another reason that I help women kind of bring that back, and to feel safe, actually safe to step into feminine, like you mentioned, because I think women don't feel safe anymore because of the divorce rate, because of so many things that's happening in the world or around them, that they're like, well, I always have to be safe. Like I always have to have, my career and all these things. But if you trust yourself and you can be yourself there, you don't have to be completely dependent on a man or something like that. Like there's balance. So
Well, and the only real, I mean, the only real secure safety that we ever truly feel is inside of ourselves. I mean, that's we're all out here looking for safety and connection and all of those other things when we don't necessarily have it inside of ourselves.
yeah.
And that's where all of that comes from. And I think, talking about the masculine side, and I'm not going to pretend that I know all of the right things and all of that, but I do know that that however much of the masculine energy is very safe, protective energy. It is not controlling energy. It is it. I guess I'm thinking about this. I'm like, it feels like the solid rock that you can lean on, and it's not unstable. It's not moving. It's not controlling. I'll say that a few more times. It is not controlling.
Yeah, that's actually the wounded masculine, the controlling. Yeah. When it's also control, they're not healed.
Yeah. And we all have the blind sides, but that's and for for however many guys that it feels very different, and they're I feel like that it's kind of a lot on both sides, whether or not they are more in their feminine or if they're in a more toxic masculine, and when they think that they need to be overbearing, or controlling or any of those things, which are not healthy masculine.
And I also want to note that we both have both. I think a lot of like we are only feminine, we're only masculine. No. There's balance. We are more of one or the other. Right? So that's the difference, but we are both. We both have both. So yeah, that's an interesting topic. Oh, I love talking about that.
Super awesome. So now what topic you want to jump into? Something else?
I'm thinking. So I don't know if we can't really see if anyone else, right? I don't know if I see. Oh, okay. I see it on the side. Okay. I see it now.
Yeah. You can see the comments on the side there.
Yeah. What comes up for you? Like, what do you think you want to share more in value?
I think, I mean, and what I talk about a lot, and it's very interesting because what I actually talk about online is much less of what I talk about in my coaching sessions. So I talk about narcissism and toxic relationships and all of those things online a lot. In my coaching sessions, there's only a little bit of that, and it's usually mostly towards the beginning of working with a new client, because it is really helpful to understand about narcissism and toxic relationships and abuse and manipulation and all the things that go on until it is no longer helpful. And because it's like the acknowledgement of all of the things that we went through, the situations, the experiences, we acknowledge and understand, let's gain the understanding of what happened in those situations. And as soon as we have kind of worked through a lot of that, then it's like, okay, now we work on coming back into ourselves, because that's a lot of what we lose in the toxic relationships is we are focused on everything outside of ourselves because we had to. I mean, part of this is survival in these relationships. But we're focused on all of the things outside, and so we have to bring ourselves back into ourselves and begin working on and focusing on ourselves and our healing. And that's when we start getting to, okay, how was I showing up that I ended up in these relationships? You know, what part of me am I not showing up for and supporting?
Yeah. Yeah, it really always starts with us. And as soon as you said that, like, we're so focused on everything around us, it's so exhausting.
Yeah.
It's so exhausting
Yeah.
because we are not really true to ourselves. We are not authentic. And
Well,
we want
and we're searching. We are literally searching for all of the things outside of ourselves in order to make us whole. And that's the one way for sure we will never make ourselves whole.
Yes.
Looking on all the things from the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot of work, but it's so worth it.
Yeah.
It is so worth it. It's just, yeah, you become free for the rest of your lives. And for us, right, like we had our own, we invested in ourselves too.
Yeah.
That, I mean, up to now, even with my business and everything, and I realize how investing in yourself, like everything that anybody that's listening now, later, you know, this is, I really hope that we give some value, but I think there's only so much you can do on our own. And with a good coach, it just accelerates, and you know what to do. You're guided. It's somebody from outside giving you the blind spots, which we don't see in ourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, we really speed things up in a healthy way, so that, you know, then you can attract a better relationship or whatever the goal is. But it's so powerful.
Yeah,
So,
we can't see. I mean, we're stuck in the jar and we can't see inside the jar because we're in the jar. I mean, that's really so we don't see our blind side. I don't see my blind sides. I mean, it takes so much work.
Yeah.
So much work for me to work out and see my blind sides by myself. Somebody else, they spot that right off the bat. You know, a good coach, they're like, "Oh, that thing right there." And they're like, "Oh, no."
Yes. Oh yeah, I'm sure, like, by now, I mean, even when I talk to clients or in workshops, or within a few minutes, I already know what they are when, you know, they talk and they share, and I'm like, well, that's what's blocking you right now. That's so we can quickly see that, because we have experience. But yeah.
Yeah, it cuts. I mean, it literally cuts years or decades off of the process of healing and moving forward and finding those things out so that we can have healthy relationships. One thing that I just thought about, and I am getting ready to launch a podcast. Yay! And super excited.
Yeah.
And so I'm going through trying to figure out names for that. And one of the ones that I came up with was and now I'm like, maybe I shouldn't say it on the air here, but yeah, but and actually that doesn't even matter, but because the story is I thought of this name and I sent it to a few different people, and someone sent back, yeah, it's good, but it's also cheesy.
Okay.
And
do you want to share or no?
Yeah.
No?
And I had to think about it because I'm like, what did I because now that I'm talking about so empowering what did I say? Doing two things at once here, three things. Empowering transformation. And so the response that I got was that's good, but that's cheesy. And I said,
strong words, but I don't think it recognizes of like what you're helping. I don't know, but they're two powerful words.
Yeah. Well, and I am not going to talk about narcissism all day long.
No.
Podcast. No way. It's not going to happen. So I wanted it more all encompassing of all of the other things, but what happened is they said, well, it's it's cheesy, and I said that's what most people think about about all of working on themselves until their life blows up and they have to. And I think that that's a whole nother barrier for most people with getting help, with working on themselves, with healing, with all of these things. That we want better relationships, but we want to blame it on everybody else that we don't have better relationships. And part of the reason that we don't do the work or don't want to do the work or are unwilling to do the work is because that's cheesy and that's dumb. And, and you're, especially with the guys, oh, you're weak, you're a sissy. If you have to go get help, then you're a sissy. And obviously you couldn't man up and work through it. And all of those things that we think about, all of the shame and judgment that comes from society and everywhere else, if we need to go get help, which, I mean, we're okay with getting help for everything else. Yeah. Whatever issue you have, it's like, oh yeah, I'll go to the doctor, and people are okay to a certain extent, I think now. Well, if the psychologist tells you that you need meds for whatever it is, then do that. Now, will you go show up and hire a coach, hire a counselor, hire a therapist, hire any of those people? Maybe not so much.
And it's so, I want to put it out there, if men are listening, we can't see, but I'm sure there's some men are listening too, now or later. But that is sexy. When a man, so I was talking to a guy about 2-3 weeks ago, and I met him on a dating app. And he was so, I don't think he's not even in this industry, but he had some knowledge about attachment styles and triggers. And I'm like, who are you? And that, to me, no, but that's when a man knows a little bit about this. I'm not expecting it for men to know like whoever I'm meeting, but it's so sexy. Really, like that emotional intelligence and having a little bit of that awareness. Oh, this is what women should focus on, and not how tall he is, because this is like, typical, like he needs to be this height and he needs to have a, some physique, like specific physique or whatever. Like, no, focus on that. Those are the things, right? That really the deep connection, like and the chemistry is another piece to it, right? But when a man has that, to me, that's super sexy. So
Yeah. And I think one of the difficulties with that too, though, is then the woman has to be ready for that to show up. Because if she's not ready for a really emotionally intelligent man to show up, then she is going to friend zone or run away from him. I mean, like nobody's business. And I think it's, it's vice versa. It's very intimidating, and I've had very few experiences, but unfortunately, but with women that are really emotionally intelligent, I'm like, oh wow, and kind of almost, it's like take a step back here, because wow, she really understands, and it's a different dynamic when it's in a dating type, dynamic, than with talking, because I talked with other coaches and all kinds of different people, but when there's that dynamic of potentially dating or, out on a date or something like that, and you meet somebody that's emotionally intelligent, if you're not ready for it, it is dysregulating, and it is, it's kind of unnerving in a very strange way, which we kind of all, and probably, unless we've really done a lot of work, it's very uncomfortable to meet somebody that really has high emotional intelligence.
And I did hear that sometimes from women, and I was there too in the past, where it's like, yeah, he's nice, and but it's boring. It's like, is it boring or is it actually healthy? You just don't know, because you use something different. And I think this is where I always advise women when they go on dates, it's like, if they don't resist respect, if there's nothing that majorly, happen where you say, okay, no, I like, no way. Other than that, go on a second date if, he's interested. You're interested. Like, go on a second and third date and then make a decision. You don't have to jump right away just because it feels different. I always advise women because women tend to go with a checklist. And men, they tend to go like, like they don't even think about it a lot of times. And then they meet the woman and then all of a sudden they want to marry this woman and want to have family. Like, I feel
Mhm.
like men, they differently than women. Women, they have like a checklist, right? He needs to have all these things. So, but I always advise women, like when you go on a date, just see how you feel around him. How
Mhm.
do you feel around him? And then after you're done with the date and you go home, like, right, you do the journaling and all the tools that I'm
Mhm.
teaching, in my program, but where you kind of assess it, okay, what came up? Like, why? Maybe you were nervous, maybe you were anxious, like, but why?
Mhm.
Is it because he actually asked you some intentional questions and he was really interested in you and he's actually, he likes you?
Yeah.
Is that the reason? Or is it because he had some things that, showed up that are clearly not healthy? And I think that's sometimes hard to recognize
Yeah.
when we start dating because there's some triggers from the past and we can't really, I think I'm not a pro and I'm very much into nervous system regulation lately. It's so good. But it's hard to determine that early on. And I think that's what when you do that inner work and you recognize that, that's how you will, even though you feel like it feels uncomfortable, but you're still going to continue doing it because
Mhm.
number one, you want to learn how to handle those situations. And number two, it may come out that he's actually a good guy, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think and this is kind of a little different topic, but one of the things that I have noticed and been working through a bit is with especially in just talking to somebody, it's very hard to tell the difference between somebody that has really healthy boundaries
mm,
and somebody that's avoidant, because
mm,
avoidant people seem like they have really good boundaries
mm,
because they cut people off and keep people out.
mm,
They're I mean they're avoidant in many different ways,
mm,
and I think differentiating, which has been one of the struggles that I've looked at. I'm like, do they have healthy boundaries here, and that's why they're not responding back or taking however much time to respond back, or is it because they're avoidant?
yeah,
And
that's a good point, actually. Yeah, yeah, because I have something in my eye. I don't know what it is, but as long as I can see, but I have something. Okay. Um, That's a very good point. And I think that comes back to communication and like how they value, because if they're intentional,
Mhm,
then they will communicate it and say,
mhm,
listen, I don't think we're a good match or whatever it is.
mhm,
But that actually indicates that there's so many things we can see early on,
mhm.
um, going on dates and how they behave, how they treat others, how
Yeah,
there's so many ways to like to see, okay, how how much healing have you done, and what are you actually looking for, and is it all about you, or are you unhealthy? So yeah.
I think
um
the other hard part that we don't really want to talk about usually is that, especially when we're out on a date at first, we're on drugs. I
mm,
mean, and it doesn't mean that we're drinking or anything else.
right.
It's all brain drugs.
Mm,
It's like,
mm,
oh my gosh, there's this pretty person, handsome
mm,
person, whatever, however you want to say it, but there's this person here that I'm interested in, and oh my gosh. And
yeah,
so we are seriously on lots of drugs at that
mhm,
point. So it's really hard to then sober up, I guess, in a way, so that we can go, wait a minute, they weren't that nice, or they weren't that nice to the waiter or waitress, or they weren't responding back to me.
yeah,
All of the different things that we see later and go, oh my gosh, I should have seen all of that. Well,
yeah,
part of the reason you didn't see it is because you're on drugs.
yeah. And I think this is going back to what you said, to take things slowly at least the first couple of months. I don't believe, like when I think of attracting a life partner, I personally don't believe it takes years to go to the next level. That's my personal belief. I do think at the beginning, like the first couple of months, where you have space in between dates, because it gives you the time to reflect, and and you can text and talk in between. But when you get home, like you said, in the date, you're just like, a lot of times, which again, we shouldn't just be focused on like, oh my God, does he like me and all the things. It's like, just,
Yeah.
you are curious, like you want to get to know the
Yeah.
person, you want to see how you're feeling, you want to see like all these things that you mentioned, even though he looks great and even though he's charming or whatever. But then you go home and then you have like, okay, time to reflect. Don't mean, I generally, and I will never say what to do, what not to do, but generally I don't advise to go on the same date the next day, because then it's like you want space in between and really reflect. So yeah, you're right. I think when on a date, definitely you're like hi and you're like, oh, I'm excited, and then you tend to ignore the red flags because you want it so badly, right? Like you want this relationship, like you want it. But yeah, make sure it's really aligned with your values. And to me, that these are all values, right? If you respect, loyalty, commitment, communication, these are all values. So it should
Well,
align.
and I think that's, to me, any time that I've felt that anxiousness, go out with somebody, go, spend time, talk with somebody, whatever it is. And then you feel all of that anxious energy. Oh my gosh, I want this person. I know that I've got some work to do. Like that's exactly what that tells me. Yes, maybe I have desire for that person or whatever, but really what that tells me is that, okay, I still have some stuff that I need to work through.
Yeah, no, this is very good advice, actually. Like you can be excited and you can like the person, but if you have any extreme feelings, that's why I don't believe that typically when you feel instant chemistry and that's all you have, it's typically a red flag.
Yes.
It really is.
I agree so much with that. Oh, I got the butterflies. That means run.
That is, yeah.
That means run.
You need to do something within you first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was great. I think, I don't know if you want to cover anything else, but I think we did like an hour and we gave a lot of value. And yeah, do you want to share? Do you have any information you want to share? Do you have any events coming up? Anything that you have?
Yeah, I just do one-on-one coaching. All of my consultations are free. So anybody can jump on. You can go to Kyle Miller Coaching. There's links in my bio to take you to the scheduling page, and you can schedule on there. You can reach out on all the social media, Kyle Miller Coaching. I'm happy to talk with everybody. My mission is for no one to feel alone or hopeless. And I think the big final thing that I want to leave everybody with is that kindness is the way that we move through everything. And so in all the ways, all the time, as much as you can, be kind to yourself. And even when you're not being kind to yourself, take a deep breath, take a step back, and allow yourself to be kind to yourself again. And you're going to go through those cycles. That's what this looks like. It's a game of allowing yourself over and over again to be kind to yourself.
And I also want to add, us as coaches, and I'm sure Kai can agree with me, is that we're not perfect. We are not 100% healed, and we have triggers, and we have all the thoughts and all the things coming up for us. The difference is that I can tell for myself that I manage it better and it's shorter. So know it, that when everything that the clients will learn in our program, I think it really minimizes that feeling, because we're going to feel all the feelings and it's never going to go away. But it's just manage it where you live a better life ultimately. So I just want to add that we both have that too, but we just, with our coaching and experience, we just manage it differently. And this is why we do it.
It doesn't run our lives anymore.
Exactly.
We still feel it. It still is disrupting, but it does not run our lives anymore.
Yeah.
And that's It's life altering. So where can everybody find you, Valerie?
Yeah, so I on my website, so I also offer free consult calls, and then my website is valeriemitriccoaching.com. You can find me on Instagram, Valerie Mitric Coaching, and then I do have a workshop coming up. It's a little bit early, but I just scheduled this, so it's October 12th at 11:30 a.m. And the link is in my bio on Instagram. I also have to update my Facebook, but I just schedule it, and it is on Eventbrite. So it's free. It's 90 minutes.
And that's Eastern time.
That's Eastern time. Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, 11:30 Eastern time. And yeah, I also have a free love guide, also found on my website. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for being on here. Thank you, Valerie, so much for being on and for the conversation. Lots of good stuff in here. So hope everybody has a wonderful night.
Yes, have a good night. And Kai, let's do it again. This was so much fun.
Absolutely.